Let's but oh yeah, well, I'm not getting any sound. I'm not getting any sound. Wait, why am I not getting any sound? Hold up. Wait. There we go. There's the sound. Okay. So I'm just gonna go to whatever save, it doesn't really matter. It's just that I'm actually going to this save. We'll see. The first thing I want to showcase when I load in is the wardrobe. There are costumes there's costume that you can wear now. I think you guys saw it at the end of the credit of ending A.
僕は飼い主さんと接するたびどこか懐かしかった。無意識のうちにお姉さんとダブらせていたのかもしれません。
Right, forgot about this part.
やります。
The sound of rain filled the village. The steep cliffs that surrounds the area magnified sound, causing even the slightest drizzle to rattle like a thunderstorm. Then a wisp of smoke streamed from the huts as the villagers huddled in their home and waited out the rain. A single child, however, had braved the downpour and was now wandering slowly towards the wooden, hawk-shaped weather vane at the center of town. The wanderer reached the vane, which had existed for as long as any could remember, and stared. The child's face was simultaneously delicate and fierce, like a teacup that had survived a shipwreck. Those traits combined with pale white skin to give the face an almost sexless quality. If the beak turns east, I go home. If it stays west, then I. The child blinked. Rain slowly dripped down the young one's short hair and began its long descent to the ground. Come on. Come on. The child felt a slight breeze and watched as the vein slowly creaked to life, spinning this way and that for a moment it finally settled with the beak pointing firmly towards the east. East? Really? Before the vein could move again, a jagged rock came spinning and tumbling through the air, striking home against the child's head. The force of the blow dropped the child to the ground as a hail of stone began to fall all around. Oh no, they found me. The heartbreaking smile crept across the child's face as the stone continued their assault. Through the rain, the sound of multiple footsteps grew louder before a voice rang out. I'm not gonna say that. Fuck it. The voice belonged to Dima, worst of all the bullies in the Aries. As Kaine struggled to stand, the final stone came skittling through the mud and bounced against her foot. Blood oozed from the cut above her eyes and blurred her vision, but she could make out the shape of Daimo, and his usual gang of idiots. The boy seems taken aback for a moment by Kaine's seemingly indifferent from the blood dripping from her face, but quickly regained his bravado. What's up, freaks? You like the rain? You like getting all wet? Or did you finally decide to run away from home? Though she knew it was futile, Kaine turned to leave. Before she could get more than a few steps, the other kids scrambled around to surround her, cruelty burning in their eyes. Kaine knew that those were not the only eyes on her. The tormentor's parents watched from the safety of their home. She was attuned to the sensation. It was the one she had experienced many times before. While some villagers seemed simply turned a blind eye to the action of their children, many encouraged it openly. In a society ruled by superstition and fear, Kaine was something to be hated and, if possible, destroyed. I didn't say you could leave, freak. Daimo's words chewed at her like a worm through an apple. He can't hurt me. She lied to herself. Be strong, be brave. He can't hurt me. He can't hurt me. He can't hurt. Oh look, a little freak is gonna cry. What's wrong? Are you sad that everyone hates you and wants you dead? Kaine prayed for the rain to flood. Kaine prayed to, Kaine prayed for the rain to flood down and carry her away from the world that seems to have no place for her. But if there were a god, they'd choose to ignore her. As Daimo crept ever closer, the clouds began to thin and the rain slowed. Even the weather hates me. I'm useless, a failure. I wish Daimo's rock has taken my head off. And I couldn't meet Daimo's leering gaze. She lowered her eyes and stared at the muddy ground below. The bully moved forward until he was inches away. She could smell the scent of old meat on his breath. The boy grabbed Kaine's face with a thick finger and yanked it upwards. She tried to turn away, but he forces her gaze back and jammed his thumb through her eyelids to pry it open. Show me. Just say no. Daimo grinned evilly. You don't say no to me. No one says no to me. Even taking his attention from not even taking his attention oh my god. Not even taking his attention from Kaine, he called to his cohorts. Come on guys, let's give this freak what she deserves. As soon as Daimo finished, kicks and blows began to rain down upon Kaine. Daimo paused, still grinning, as Kaine curled up in the ball and tried to make the pain stops. I don't get you, freak. What you acting like a girl for, huh? Everyone knows what you really are. Kaine ignored the question, choosing instead to stare as the weather vane. It continued to point east as if supremely confident about the future it had chosen for her. Go home? Yeah, that's a funny joke for someone with dead parents and no home to go. Freak, chanted the kid. Freak, freak, freak. Kaine closed her eyes and listened to the rain, waiting for the pain to start again. As the clutching hand of the village children closed around her, she bent her mind to the sound of the rain, letting it become her world entire. The rain fell, but the pain never came. Only when the laughter of her tormentor turned to terrified cries did she dare open a single blocked-caked eye. Kaine was shocked to see Daimo sprawled on the ground, holding his head and screaming in pain. She could see blood welling from the spaces between his fat, twisted fingers. My god, he's crying. He's actually crying. Deprived of their leader, the other kids glanced back and forth between themselves as if waiting for someone to step forward and take charge. When no savior emerged, they began to uneasily shuffle away from Kaine. But the young girl was the least of their concern. Instead, their attention was rapt on the ancient woman standing a few feet away. After struggling her breath for a moment, she finally spoke in a voice thick with rage. Hurts like a bitch, don't it? But now I suggest you scatter before I throw another one. If any of you little bastard ever touch my Kaine again, I'll do far worse than throw a rock. You can count on it. The old woman crouched down and gently touched the hand Daimo was using to cover the wound. Before he could think to protest, she ground her palm on the wound and twisted back and forth. Ow, he screamed, leaping to his feet. Stop it, what are you doing? Quit whining, ain't no one ever died from a scratch. You hit me with a rock, you stupid bitch. A big one, that thing could have killed me. The old man shrugged. Death is the best cure for stupid. Daimo's face twisted with rage at her words. Locking his eye on Kaine, he took a step backwards and spat on the ground. Get out, leave the village, no one wants you here, either of you. Seeing the old woman grab another stone, Daimo and his companion turned tail and ran. As they fled, the old woman grabbed her side and barked out a single laugh. Ha! Look at that fat boy go. Jeez, he's healthy enough to run from a fight. The woman's smile faded as she turned her attention to Kaine. Kneeling down, she removed her shawl and placed it around the young girl's shoulder, then produced a cloth from the folds of her dress and began blotting at the blood on her forehead. Oh, Kaine, she said, why didn't you fight back? You're stronger than that lot. The word of her grandmother stung Kaine and she turned away. Don't be nice to me, she said. I don't deserve it. Nothing matters anymore. Her tears, held in check for so long, finally began to fall on the muddy ground below. Everyone hates me. They think I cause bad things. They think I cause bad things to happen. They think I'm a freak. I wish I was dead. As Kaine's tears turned to sob, she felt her grandmother's hand on her shoulder. Despite her advanced age and I don't even know how to pronounce that word. Diminutive size. She was a woman in surprising strength, and Kaine found herself unable to turn away. Don't talk like that, girl. It's a river wide and deep that flows between the realm of this world and the next, and it grants no mercy to any that attempts the crossing. You got the duty to fight until your last breath. Understand? The old woman tightened her grip and tried to still the tremor in her voice. You know the pain of losing someone close to you, Kaine? You know because you survived it. As the word hit home, Kaine was struck by the force of her love for the old woman. As a young child, she didn't even know of her grandmother, but when her parent died, the woman quickly accepted her as her own. Grandma, as Kaine called her, was cunning, vulgar, and quick to violence, and their first few years together had not been easy. But with each year had passed, Kaine and her grandmother had grown closer. However, it was only now, sitting in the mud with tears and blood caking her face, that Kaine truly understood the depth of her affection. Here was a woman who had seen hard time, who had seen death, who had fought through all the things that somehow emerged on the other side. If anyone could understand Kaine's pain and loneliness, it was her. Do I make you sick, Grandma? Of course not. Don't be an ass. Well, at least we know where she got her language and attitude from. Damn. Kaine drew her grandmother's moth-eaten scrawl away from around her body and shuddered. Oh, moth-eaten. Okay, but my body, it's not normal. It was. If I was normal, then Mom and Dad wouldn't. Hush, interrupted Grandma. I'm not here. I'll not hear another word of this nonsense. You're my granddaughter, and I love you. If folks had a problem with that, you can just go to hell. They can just go to hell. Whoops, wrong wording. With that, the old woman reached out and placed a whiff of dried flower in Kaine's hair. The skill it took to bend the flower without breaking the stem or losing a single petal was remarkable, and the beauty of it made Kaine want to cry all over again. Oh my gosh, these are lunar tears. Grandma, you made this for me? Lunar tears were legendary flowers. Almost people could live their entire life without even seeing one, and yet her grandmother had somehow collected a dozen or more. Kaine reached up and touched the reef? Oh my god, why am I brain farting on this word? I don't care. As if she couldn't believe it was real. Where did you find these? Just stumbled upon them where I was out doing the shopping. The woman turned away as she spoke, leading Kaine to suspect that the search had been more difficult than she was letting on. The pain she took to construct the ornament, let alone track down the flower used in its construction, made Kaine's heart hurt. She reached up and gently adjusted the... I'm gonna search that word up. Fuck it.
Wreath.
Wreath. Now I know. I don't know. Adjusted the wreath, admiring the way it felt between her finger. Didn't quite turn out right, said the grandmother as she squinted at it. These old hands have troubled the delicate work, but it sure looked good on a pretty girl like you. Kaine blushed and turned away. You think I'm pretty? Why? Of course you are. What a fool thinks to say. Well, okay, I'm not denying on that part though. Thank you, Grandma. Her grandmother smiled. We're gonna be fine, you and me, she said. Long as we got each other, we'll be just fine. Kaine took her grandmother's hand to hers, and the two of them struggled to their feet. As they began for the long walk, Kaine gripped the hand with all her might, as if trying to stop the smoke from drifting away on the wind. The rain had stopped. Kaine stood beneath the weather vane, watching it spin like in a crazy circle. No longer cares about the direction it faced when it stopped. I don't need to escape. I have a home. Grandma loves me, and that's enough, even if it's against the world. Kaine let her gaze drift up past the vane and into the cloudy sky. The last faint hints of a rainbow were slowly fading. I'm stuttering. As she turned and headed home, the lit light scattered into a million particles and vanished, seemingly taken away on the breeze. In the distance, Kaine heard the steady sound of an axe striking wood. The noise had purposeful quality to it, as if she was hearing a master woodman go about his work. The firewood being produced, however, was as far from a work of art as could be. Pieces of every shape and size were being flung about the barren yard with wild abandon. Another trying to stack such wood would probably die in frustration before the job was through. Stupid piece of shit axe. Kane's grandmother flailed around with the axe, filling the air with both splinter of wood and words that would make the most hardened sailor blush. Grandma, called Kane. That you, Kane? Yelled the old woman, taking her eyes off the wood for a moment. Don't get too close, or I might take your goddamn foot off by mistake. She brought the axe down on a piece of wood, sending chips flying in every direction. One spun past Kane's close enough for her to hear the whistle, at which point she decided to step back. Once she scuttled to a safe distance, she cupped her hands around her mouth and shouted, "Grandma, do you need any help? I can get you water or lunch or a new axe or something." The axe, poised to strike another wobbly blow, paused in midair. The old woman considered her granddaughter's offer for a moment, then smiled. Tell you what, since I'm doing such a piss poor job of chopping, why don't you come here and take over so I can get the water? Baha. Jade had been restless lately, and I don't want you running into one of them bastards. Relinquishing the axe, her grandmother picked up a long pole with wood bucket on either side. Gathering water was by far the most difficult of the two jobs, but Kane knew better than to complain. Once Grandma's mind was set, there was no changing it. Kane did her best to help with chores, but Grandma took every task that required travel to the village. Though she had a long list of plausible excuses, Kane knew the real reason. She didn't want her granddaughter to be taunted and harassed by the villagers. Once Kane moved in, Grandma decided to take up residence a good distance from the Aries. Out of sight, out of mind seems to be the best policy when it comes to the villager and her granddaughter, and rare were the days when any but the two of them could be found on a rocky arc of land they called home. Kane enjoyed the solitude, but harbored a secret resentment that her grandmother was forced to spend her golden years in such a place. After watching her grandmother leave, Kane turned her attention to the task at hand. She had never chopped wood before in her life, and soon discovered why the old woman hated the chores. Swing after swing of the axe produced only a tiny crack in the wood, and when she finally managed to connect with the solid stroke, the tool embedded itself into the log and refused to budge. Frustrated, Kane swung the axe around at her head and threw it, log and all, across the yard. Damn it. Oh, crap. She suddenly She suddenly understood the joy her grandmother felt in a good curse. Happier now, she picked up the axe, forced it into the wood, and resumed chopping. She had a natural skill with a blade, but the task was challenging, and blisters soon began to form on her small pink hands. This is tough, and my logs are all weird sizes. Spitting on her palms and ignoring the pain, Kane redoubled her efforts. Just as she was developing a rhythm, Grandma returned from the village. Setting down her buckets with a small sigh, she took one look at the log and coughed out a wheezing laugh. Pretty clumsy, girl. You better practice if you... Grandmother suddenly collapsed to her knees, causing one of the buckets to wobble precariously. Eyes wide, Kane dropped the axe and ran to her grandmother's side. Grandma! The old woman shook her head and pointed a trembling finger at the bucket. Get the bucket. Can't let it spill. Kane steadied the bucket with the foot as she kneeled by her grandma. A small bit of water sloshed around the side and made a new home, the den of her new dress, but Kane didn't notice. Grandma, what's happening? Crazed with panic, she grabbed her grandmother by the shoulder and shook. After a moment, the woman lifted her arm and batted Kane away. Stop that, just stop, she cried, breathing heavily. It ain't like I'm dying. Just tired from the trip is all. Kane desperately wanted to believe her, but one look at the old woman's shaking hand and worn face told her more than word ever could. Her grandmother had lived a long, hard life, and it seems the bill has finally coming due. The time when her grandmother watched over Kane was ending. Sooner or Sooner than either of them had feared, the positions would be reversed. The next morning, Kaine came to the side of her grandmother's bed and took her wrinkled hand. "Grandma, you're sick and you need medicine. I'm going to the village." The old woman shook her head and tried to rise, but Kaine gently pushed her down. "It's all right," she said. "I'll be fine." Her grandmother fixed her with a gaze that could melt steel. After what seemed an eternity, she finally lowered her eyes and sighed. "Well, I don't like it, goddammit. But I guess I could quit being so stubborn and let you grow up." The old woman watched as Kaine strapped on her boots and made her way down the road to the village. Hours later, as an unseen sun made its way across a dark and rainy sky, she was still watching. Kaine moved at a brisk pace, checking her pocket every few minutes to make sure the money her grandmother gave her was still there. Every noise caused her to spin on her heel, making sure she wasn't being stalked by the Shade, or worse, Daimo and his gang. But she encountered neither tormentors nor shades, and Kaine finally found herself at the entrance to the village. The few adults she could see glanced sideways at her, then muttered to each other behind raised hands before sinking away into the shadows. Her heart's racing. Kaine took a series of rapid shallow breaths and tried to calm herself. "I have to prove myself. I have to help Grandma. I have to be strong." She chanted those words to herself over and over as she slowly made her way. Finally, her eyes settled on a rotund older woman who was angrily waving her arms in the air and telling anyone who would listen exactly what she thought of Kaine's presence. Hey lady, said Kaine with a bravado she did not feel. "Where's the apothecary?" The woman's flabby cheeks shook in bewildered anger. "How dare this thing speak to me?" they seemed to say. But Kaine saw that her eyes held a different emotion. Fear. "Yeah, we're both scared, lady. Trust me on this one." "Which way?" Kaine repeated. The woman pointed at a small building to her right before hitching up her dress and stumbling on in the other direction. Kaine cringed, expecting a stone to come flying from the assembled crowd, but none came. Her mind was filled with a strange sense of pride as she made her way to the apothecary, but the new emotion had little time to take root, as soon as she opened the door, she noticed the familiar customer at the counter. It was Daimo. He's clearly been sent here on some kind of family errand because his gang of followers are nowhere to be found. "Oh my god," he sputtered. What are you doing here, freak?" The insult was delivered without force, and Kaine happily ignored it. Stretching on tiptoes to see over the counter, she asked the shopkeeper for a medication. "Ha!" barked Daimo. "That bitch finally kneeled over?" "Go to hell, Daimo." The boy's eyes grew so wide they seemed ready to fall out of head, but before he could let fly a comeback, or worse, a punch, the apothecary told them to knock it off before he kicked them out of the store. Daimo slunk out of the shop, cursing Kaine under his breath. Once he was gone, he allowed herself to breathe once more, taking a brief tour of the shop while the owner prepared her medication. It's a lot of reading, god damn it. Countless tiny bottles filled the cramped store, each with a label written in some indecipherable language. I am bad at reading. An ocean of aromas assaulted her nose, creating a scent that was exotic but not altogether unpleasant. Seeing such a variety of supply gave Kaine a sense of peace. Surely, in the world so vast, there would be a place that she could call home. On the far wall behind the counter rested a portrait of a stunning young girl. The picture had once contained bright, vibrant color, but times had worked its cruel magic and they were beginning to fade. The beauty of the work, however, remained undiminished. "You like that picture?" Kaine turned to find the apothecary with a small vial of medicine in his hand. His eyes were gentle but sad, and they seemed to stare through her and into nothing but as he spoke. "That's my daughter. I sketched it when she was just a little girl. She's been dead a long time now." Kaine didn't know how to respond. She just stared at the portrait and tried to come up with the right words. "Pictures are wonderful things," continued the shopkeeper. "They let the one closest to you live on forever." He shook his head slightly, then turned and looked down on Kaine and smiled. Handing her the medicine, he reached into his sizable green apron and produced a handful of old wax crayon. You should have these. There's no one left that I wish to draw. Kaine took an instinctive step back, causing the shopkeeper's face to darken. Yes, I've heard the rumor about you, he said. It's a small village and words Yes, I've heard the rumor about you, he said. It's a small village and word travels quickly. Between you and me, I'm not sure which of them to believe, but I also don't think they matter much. I know your grandmother, Callie. Oh, wow. And I think the way she was driven out of this town is also deplorable. Grandma's name is Callie, thought Kaine suddenly. She was still mulling this new fact over her mind as she reached out and gently took the crayon from the apothecary's hand. Your grandmother is an old friend of mine, he said as Kaine scooted away yet again, and I owe her much. I wager she would like it if you drew her a picture. I wager she would like it if you drew a picture of her. Yes, I think she would like that very much. Kaine murmured a quiet agreement, but inside her chest was bursting. Never before had a villager treated her with anything but complete contempt. It was a tiny, almost imperceptible step, but it was a step nonetheless, and with enough tiny steps, she might one day discover the rest of the world. I'm gonna get some water. I can't talk. When Kaine returned home, she found her grandmother asleep in her bed. Her feet were blackened and raw, even bleeding a bit in places, leading Kaine to think that she had been pacing around the room until exhaustion finally caught up with her. She placed the medicine by her grandmother's pillow and turned to leave, but found the old woman's hand clasped around her arm. Back already, are you? Asked the grandmother with a yawn. Come here, let me have a look at you. Grandma sat up and examined Kaine from head to toe, finally satisfied that nothing terrible has befallen her grandchild. She leaned back and allowed herself to relax. Well, how was it? Those bastards gave you any trouble? It was kind of fun, said Kaine with a small smile. No, seriously, it was. Fun, eh? Asked her grandmother in a voice which implied she believed anything but. So anytime you need me to run an errand, just let me know. As she spoke, Kaine removed the crayon from her pocket. After a brief explanation of their source, she informed her grandmother that she was going to sketch her a portrait. A portrait of me? Ridiculous. No one wants to stare at a wrinkled old crone. But Grandma, it'll make you live forever. Poor shit, said her grandma, throwing back the sheet with her bed. Living forever would just piss me off. Now put those crayon away and help with dinner. Kaine would not relent, and in the end, Grandma found herself leaning against the wall of their house as if posing for the master artist. Kaine took up the crayon, eyed her subject carefully, and set to work. Just as her grandmother was about to nod off, Kaine finished the piece. After staring at it for a bit, she released it from her grip and let it slowly drift to the floor. It's terrible. It doesn't look like you at all. I'm sorry, Grandma. I thought these crayons would, make drawings easy or something. The old woman's eyes narrowed at her granddaughter's disappointment. Let me be the judge of that, she said, ignoring the pain in her back and reaching for the paper. The sketch could have been a person's face. It also could have been a boulder, a lump of clay, or an incredible misshapen loaf of bread, all rendered in a chaotic array of color. The old woman stared at the picture for a long time, then slowly wheezed out a laugh. Oh, Kaine, she said between laughter, you truly are my blood. You're as clumsy as me, and I love it. But hush, I won't hear any more bull from how ugly you think it is. It came from the heart, and I'll treasure it always. There's a lot of reading. True to her words, the old woman gave the picture a place of honor above the kitchen's table. In the day that followed, Kaine would often catch her staring at the portrait with a strange smile on her face, and an action she interpreted as silent, mocking laughter. A week later, Kaine could stand it no more and asked her grandmother to take the artwork down. Hush, said the old woman. I'll take it down when they roll me in my shroud. Pondered this for a bit, then turned to Kaine and dropped to one knee. Listen to me, girl. Seeing this picture makes me happy in a way I never felt it before. and it makes me want to go on, so that someday you can feel the same happiness. It was a moment that burned itself in Kaine's memory, the perfect blend of pride and love and joy that came together to form a lifelong remembrance. She swore to never forget the moment, to never forget the old woman who had made her place in the world possible. Time moved on. People and memories move on and move in and out of her life like ghosts passing through a hall, but this moment will be different. Kaine swore, because I will remember it forever. Forever. Okay, I understand the story and all, but holy crap, there's so much reading. God. This is not what I planned to actually start. I kind of forgot about this part. Anyways, continuing. Kaine listened to the sound of crackling firewood and stared at the black object on her plate. She's been pushing it around the wooden disc for a good 10 minutes, ignoring and bemused stare of her grandmother. Finally, she summoned her courage and gave the object a brief sniff. A sharp, bitter scent flew up her nostril and made it home there, causing her face to twist with disgust. Grandma, I can't believe you want me to eat a bug. The old woman threw some wood under the cooking pot and snorted. It's no bug, you fool girl, it's a berry. Why the hell would I be feeding you bugs? Yeah, well, it sure looked like a bug, said Kaine, and I think it's burnt or something, because it smells terrible. With that, Kaine held her nose and threw the berry in her mouth, chewing as little as possible. Oh yeah, that's terrible, alright? Why, you little brat, laughed the old woman. Look at the sass on you. You've been spending too much time with me, and that's a fact. 5 years has passed since the moment when Kaine's grandmother saved her from the bullies. As often as the way as is often the way with the two stubborn people, their relationship have grown to fit and start. And fits and starts, but move forward at all the same time. All the same. Meals had used to be somber affair were now filled with laughter and hurled abuse in equal measure. Kaine could not remember a time when she had been happier. As the year went by, Kaine started to shoulder more and more of the daily responsibility. Her grandmother's leg grew weaker by the day, and she could no longer do many of the chores she used to take for granted. And so this morning found Kaine lacing up her work boots with a breakfast of burnt berries rolling through her belly. Where are you going today? Asked Grandma suddenly. Kaine looked up surprised. The old woman rarely asked for specific anymore. Well, I was gonna check on the Kalma tree and see if they were ripe. I thought we could make some jam or something. Oh, and I'm going to pick up some flagstones so I need to take the wheelbarrow. Flagstones? Where in the hell for? What in the hell for? Kaine stared at her grandmother, then held out an arm and swept it around their home. Constructed mostly of cloth, rope, and rubble, the old house snagged like a boxer in the final round. Grandma, a dying cat could chew through this house. I'm going to build a stone wall so that we have some protection. Why am I struggling so hard? The old woman laughed, exposing her toothless grin into the world. God damn, girl, if a bunch of thieves wants to ransack this old place, let them come. We got nothing worth stealing anyways. I'm not worried about thieves, I'm worried about shades. People saw one west of the village yesterday. The old woman tilted her head and stared at her granddaughter. Oh shoot, I don't know why you have to do it today. We can worry about it some other. Grandma, no. If I don't go to the Kalma tree, we won't eat tonight. You know that. A confused expression passed across the old woman's face, and for a moment she was a small child lost at a carnival. Yes, she said after a bit. Yes, of course you're right. I'm sorry, Kaine. Lately it seems my mind is... She didn't finish the thought, instead walking over to her nightstand and gently taking the wreath. Okay, it took me a second. Of Luna tears from the drawer. The flower petal has aged to a brilliant whiteness, and Kaine thought it was most beautiful now than the day she first received it. You're going to be a true woman soon, Grandma said, as she placed the flower in the girl's hair. So that means less chatter about shades and building, defensive walls, and more talking about how beautiful you become. Annoyed, Kaine reached up to remove the garland? But The look on her grandmother's face stopped her hand. I need a break from reading. This is so much reading. You're a beautiful thing, said the old woman, and there ain't not another like you in the world, in all the world. I'm very proud of you. Okay, Grandma, that's enough goddamn compliment for one day. Such a mouth on you. Where did that come from? Gee, I wonder. I'll teach you to sass me, girl, yelled Grandma. Suddenly she lurched forward and grabbed Kane by the ear, pulling her around the room with the crazed grin on her face. Grandma, yelled Kane in a quaking voice. Grandma, stop it, what the hell? The old woman stared at her and blinked, then slowly held her wrinkled hand out as if if it was the first time she had ever seen them. Oh, I don't know what happened there. I'm sorry, girl. Sometimes my mind just... Penny thought the look on her grandma's face was the most heartbreaking thing she had ever seen. Listen, she began. Maybe I should stay home after all. No, I won't have you stay here and keep an eye on an old codger like me. You go get your fruit and your wall and whatnot. I'll be fine. And when you come back, I'll have a nice grasshopper dinner waiting for you. Penny rolled her eyes and then kissed her grandmother in the forehead and made ready to depart, trying desperately to ignore the worry that she was gnawing on the wall of her heart. Penny could feel the old woman's eyes watching at her as she moved down the path. Don't turn around, she told herself. But in the end, the temptation was too great. She spun on her heel for one final look and saw a small, bent woman standing in front of the ramshackle hut with a sad expression on her face. God, she looks so old now. It's like the wind could reach down and just carry her away. Kanye worried about her grandmother all day, causing her work to suffer. What little fruit she could have collected was tossed carelessly into a wheelbarrow, and she only found a couple of stones before losing interest in the project. Finally, as dusk approached, she decided to call it a day. Cursing herself for the lack of focus, Kanye pushed the nearly empty wheelbarrow back down the path. As she crest the final hill, she suddenly froze in place. The wheelbarrow fell from her fingers and collapsed on its side, sending a few pieces of wrinkled brown fruits rolling back down the hill. Her gaze was transfixed by the thick black cloud that hovers around just ahead. Tracing its path with a finger, Kaine suddenly felt her stomach nod in on itself. No. Oh God, no. Her grandmother's house was ablaze, the flame licking up as if trying to touch the sky itself. Grandma? Grandma! I don't know. I'll cut that audio out. Kaine ran then faster than she could ever move in her life. Once she tripped on a stone and went sprawling into the rocky ground. She leaped to her feet and continued running, unmindful of the blood that spilled from her wounded hands and knees. As she got closer and closer, Kaine's mind began to race in time with her footfalls. It's too dark. It's too dark, not just fire. Can't be fire. Too much smoke. Gotta save her. She burst into a front yard and came to a sudden halt, her worst suspicions confirmed. The smoke from the fire was mingling with the thick, inky blackness of an enormous shade. The massive creature supported itself on 3 twisted feet and achieved balance through it of a large armored tail. I am stuttering on my words so hard. I'm sorry. Scale, horns, and claws spouted from its body in random chaotic pattern, giving it an appearance of a lizard designed by some insane god. Seeing Kaine, it let out a roar and fickled its tail, sending small whirlwinds spinning around the yard. For a moment, the creature retreated into a shimmering, inky blackness, as if her mind was unable to comprehend that such a thing could actually exist. But then a smell hit her, the blend of rotted meat and excrement, and the horror became real once more. The creature bellowed again, and this time Kaine responded with a scream of her own. Alright, okay, I don't want to say it. Alright, you bastard, she thought as she screamed echoed off the high cliff around them. It's you or me. Let's go! The shade eyed Kaine with bemused interest. Then it began looking from her to the house and back again, as if urging her to look at the destruction it had so gleefully wrought. With dread building in her heart, Kaine glanced towards the house. Through the smoke and flame, she spotted a small figure struggling to escape the ruins. Grandma. At the sound of her voice, the old woman began waving frantically. She's alive, thought Kaine. Alive! Kaine's leg sprang to life as she raced across the yard towards the flaming wreckage of the house. Below, she could advance more than a few steps. The shade opened its mouth and let out a roar powerful enough to uproot trees and send them flying. The blast sent Kaine tumbling through the air before smashing her against the rocky earth. Stars danced in front of her eyes, and she tried to remember how her leg worked. Get up. Get up! Get up! Get up! Get up! Okay, yeah, no. As Kaine struggled to her feet, the shade stomped towards the house and pinned her grandma to the ground with the tip of the claw. The old woman struggled to move the claw from her stomach, but she might as well have been pushing a mountain. She coughed briefly, sending a small spray of blood into the air, then collapsed to the ground, her energy spent. Kaine lurched to her feet, only to fall back to earth with a grasp. Her ankles were on fire. One or both of them were surely broken. Ignoring the pain that screamed through her body, she began dragging herself across the ground, leaving a drunken trail of dust and blood in her wake. Grandma, hold on. Just a little longer. I really hate voicing these things, man. Her grandmother's face was turning blue. Her eyes rolled back until only the whites were exposed. Kaine pulled herself across the ground with maddening slowness. The distance seems to increase with every second that passed. The shade glanced between the two women and flicked its tongue, its large mouth turning up at the corner. Short, panting breaths belch from somewhere deep inside its core. Bastard, laughing at us. She had no idea how much of a mindless creature could experience emotion, but there could be no doubt that Shade was taking joy in their suffering. I see your plan. The Shade moved its claw slightly, allowing Grandma to breathe again. It was clearly keeping her alive, only to snuff out her life when Kaine was close enough to touch her. I'm gonna kill this bastard. Summoning all her strength, Kaine rose to her feet. There was a sickening snap on her right ankle as her foot twisted backwards, but she forced it from her mind and began to hobble towards the monster. Pulling a small knife from her pouch at her waist, she leaped on the foot that pinned her grandmother and plunged the weapon deep. Give her back, she screamed. Give her back to me! It was like stabbing a rock. After a few swipes, the knife broke at the hilt with a dull snap. The Shade panted laughter again, then raised its tail and sent it rushing through the air towards the young girl that was latched to its foot. Kaine never had a chance. The tail struck her square to the chest and sent her clashing into the burning wreckage of the home. As she laid on the ground, the blood pouring from multiple wounds, a small, weak voice spoke up. Kaine's vision blurred, but she forced herself to focus on the sound. Finally, her eyes cleared enough from her to make out her grandmother's hand reaching out to her through the smoke. Grandma? Kaine, you gotta run. You can't best this one. Kaine grabbed the hand and held on with all her strength. Grandma, come on, we have to go. The old woman coughed loudly. One of her hands, slicked with blood, slipped from Kaine's grasp and thumped to the ground below. Grandma, no. No. I said run, goddammit, you have to live, you have to get through. The thought would stay forever unfinished. Before she could say another word, the Shade clawed foot descended, smashing through the remains of the roof and down upon the scattered figure of the old woman. Blood oozed from the gap of the creature's toe as a terrible, putrid smell assaulted Kaine's nose once again. She stared at the foot, dumbfounded, convinced that what she was seeing could not possibly be real. When the creature finally lifted its appendages, all that remained underneath was a twisted, unrecognizable mash of rubble and red. Her grandmother was gone. Kaine blinked, trying to feel the hand which had been in her just a moment before. For a fleeting instant, she could remember the warmth of that embrace, the trembling of the finger, but then the sensation drifted away as the breeze and was gone. Memory flashed through Kaine's mind, one after another, faster and faster, until they became a meaningless jangle of noise. Kaine screamed then, a thunderous sound that echoed on the cliff and seemed to roll away forever. The Shade eased forward, black ichor pouring from its mouth and dissolved from smoke on the ground below. The earth shook with every step as it crept towards its prey. Kane's body slowly rose as if controlled by a mad puppet master. Her arm and leg were bent as an impossible angle. Her head lolled, that's a word, dangerously to the side. Yet somehow she managed to stand. Staring at the shade, her eye began to glow with a deep red fire. The creature, so confident just a moment before, took a slow, hesitant step backwards, trying to discern if this broken human could possibly pose a threat. Kane seized the moment. Laughing like a mad woman, she leapt into the air and plunged the shattered hilt of her knife deep into the leg of a shade. The shade shook Kane off like a fly, sending her crashing to the earth once again. Her chest rose and fell slowly, as if a great weight were resting on her. Voiced sounds of pain echoed through her mind. Something warm and thick oozed from her ear. Is that blood? I think it is. I think I'm bleeding to death. No, can't die. Grandma told me to live. Deep inside Kane's mind, something finally broke. The sound, the pain, the smoke and flame, all of it faded away until all that remains was a single incantation repeated over and over again. Kill it. Kill it. As a spark that was Kane slowly began to flicker and die, she felt her desire to kill and her desire to live blend into one. The distance between heartbeat grew longer and longer and longer. I need some water.
おい、来るぞ。分かってる。姿で生き続けるはいかなる執念か。おぞましいわ。二度と会わなくて済むようここで殺してやる。変か。変ではない。お前の腕が上がったのだ。存分に暴れよ。
Angles are garbage, holy crap. No, go for it. Really? Still brutal of a way to kill a shade. I'm just gonna put that out there. Oh no, not again. Not again. There's more reading. Ah. Gently, weakly, softly, the shade, sure that its tormentor was dead, turned and stomped off towards the horizon, stomping along the way to bellow one final roar. Couldn't kill it. Shamed beyond imagining, Kane tried to turn her head to the side, but only succeeding in coughing up a huge gout of blood. It was getting difficult to see, and only after a moment of fierce concentration did she realize that her left eye was gone. Laughing to herself, she turned her remaining eye to the ruin of her home and noticed a ragged stump of arms resting a few feet away. Yeah, that's mine, she thought with a mad giggle. This is gonna make clapping a real bitch. Ah, cried the sudden voice from the depth of her mind. Finally gonna die, are ya? Well, you had it coming. Go to hell, Daimyo, she thought as an unseen assailant. Go to hell before I pluck out your eyes and feed them to a dog. The voice of her childhood terror evaporated into smoke, only to be replaced by another, more recent voice. Hold still, said the apothecary, materializing from the ruins like a ghost. I want to draw you. I want. What? Oh, I want to draw you. That way you can live forever. No, stop. Don't want to live forever. Want to die right now. I see, he said quietly. Well, if that's what you want. The spectral shopkeeper fluttered in and out of existence for a moment, then produced a piece of paper and sketched quickly. After a few seconds, he turned a page to Kaine and smiled. Since you rejected my offer, I decided to draw someone else. It was a picture of her grandmother, real as life. Kaine opened her eye and thanked the man, but stopped as the picture began to blacken in the middle. Before she could say anything, dozens of multi-legged insects began to swarm across the image, tearing at it with sharpened pincer. Stop. No, don't hurt that picture. Kaine reached out with her remaining arm and waved futilely at the air. To her surprise, the insect fell off the picture and to the ground below, where they vanished into a tiny black tendrils of smoke. Tendrils of smoke. Relieved, Kaine turned her good eye back to the picture, only to open her mouth in the silent scream. The sketch now showed her grandmother as she truly was, a smashed, unrecognizable lump of nothing. The apothecary smiled, then broke into a jolly dance. See that? He cried as he danced his jig. It's perfect now. She looks just like you. I look like that? God. Oh God, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. Drowning in despair, Kaine laid her head back in the mud and smoke of her ruined home and waited for the end to come. But just before she let everything go, an unfamiliar voice began whispering in her ear. Ain't you got a wish, sunshine? The voice was vulgar and fierce at the same time, as if insanity had somehow found a way to take form. Kaine wanted to scream as the voice crawled under her skin, but her lungs refused to work. No, a wish? Like a prayer or something? Why don't you get on your knees and start praying to heaven? Please, invisible man to the sky, save me. Kaine finally resorted to shouting at the voice in her mind. I don't make wishes. I don't make wishes. They don't come true for me. I'm a curse, a freak. I should be left to die, and I should stop reading this at this point. Oh my god. The other voice boomed in her ear. Oh god, you're the best. Kaine glanced down and saw a black shiny substance oozing from her leg. She tried to brush it away, but her remaining arm would no longer respond. The substance slowly crept around her feet and then began moving up towards the rest of her body. Is this death? Is this what it's like? Or is my mind just losing it? You could feel the slime oozing upwards, feel the hot, searing pain it left in its wake. Whatever else makes it happen, it might be happening. She was still alive and this was real. Come on, said the voice. Let it go. Kaine tried to ignore the voice and concentrate on the pain, but the newcomer would have none of it. Don't ignore me, sunshine. You're ready to give up, ready to die, so why not let me have it? Have what? Your body. Come on, give it to me. Give it to me. I want to stand on the ground, feel the rain, taste the wind. The voice paused as if licking its lip. When it resumed, it was filled with mad, unabated joy. And I want to take your hand and use them to choke the goddamn life out of people. I want to tear out their throat and bathe in the blood, just like before. In response, Kaine shifted her head to vomit and vomited. The warmth of it crept down her front and mingled with the pain of the encroaching black ooze. Are you a shade? Yeah, maybe. What of it? A slime reached her face, crept up past her nose, and slowly oozed into the socket of her missing eye. The moment it touched her brain, Kaine was struck by the most powerful sensation she ever felt in her life. It was ecstasy. She wanted to scream with delight, but all she could manage was a small whisper moan. Feels good, don't it? Asked the voice with a chuckle. Yeah, that's what I say. I know how to please the lady. Now give me that body. Come on, give me that body and I'll give you more of this feeling. It's a fair trade. Black lump began to protrude from Kane's side. As she watched, it grew larger and thicker, eventually taking the form of her missing arm. I can see better, she thought. My eyes must be growing back too. The slime reached up to envelop the rest of her face, and she managed to brush it away. Stop, she whispered, marveling at how she had regained her voice. Stop. The black ooze hesitated, and as if considering this request, then quickly shimmered down her body before disappearing into the cloud of smoke. Ah, what the hell, Sunshine? She screamed the voice. We had a deal. I thought you wanted to die. Grandma said, we can't die yet. A brief image of her grandmother, bloodied and broken, flashed before her eyes. She saw the shade that had killed her and heard its mocking laughter, then closed her eyes and forced the image from her head. Her whole body was quaking with rage. When she opened her eyes again, they burned bright red. That thing took my grandmother. I have to kill it before I die. Kane glanced down and saw a mysterious pattern. The pattern of shade burned itself into her left arm. Well, I'll be damned, said the voice cheerfully. Look at that, Sunshine. I think you and me are gonna be good friends now. Kane stared intently at her arm. The more emotional she felt, the more the letter seems ready to puncture her skin and begin infecting the rest of her body. The air clearly had a will of its own now. The arm clearly had a will of its own now. Stop. Gotta stop. Putting her left arm in her right, Kane took a deep breath and tried to calm herself. Come on, don't fight it, pleaded the voice. Hates my favorite dish and I'm hungry. Let it go. Feel the anger. Burn into the fire of revenge. Thirst for blood. Then go out there and shut up, and get the hell out of my body. Your body? Oh, that's rich, Sunshine. Real rich. Look, why don't you just up and die so I can have this body all to myself? What do you say? I bet those buddies of yours in the Aries would love to see you dead. Kane grabbed a nearby shard of glass and tried to saw off the shade's infected portion of her side. Before she could, her darkened left arm grabbed her right wrist, crushing it. Kane screamed and dropped the shard as the sound of bones crushing on bone filled the air. Stupid idiot girl, you're possessed now, Sunshine, and there ain't no going back. The voice laughed again, a loud, long wail that seems to go on without end. Possessed, whispers Kane. Yeah, possessed, you and me. You got what you might call a time-shared arrangement. Remember how folks used to think you were a freak? Well, wait till they get a load of you now. Kane looked up, tears in her eyes. The sky seemed smaller somehow, darker. Is this because of that shade? Is this how they see the world? So, listen, purred the voice. I know this whole possession thing seems a bit sudden, but ain't all bad. There's plenty in it for you too. I'm a very powerful creature, Sunshine, and now that power belongs to you. You got enemies, people you want to kill, I make it happen. That little fat kid who kept picking on you, that big old shade that squashed your granny, we'll wrap them up in their own assholes. No more abuse for you, Sunshine, no more pain. Wait, said Kane, you're a shade. Why would you help me kill another shade? What? You think I'm some kind of a racist? Some killing snob? I don't give a good goddamn who you murder, honey pants. I just want to drink from the well. Kane considered this as she struggled to her feet, the power of the shade coursing through her. The smoke from her house was drifting away from the wind, and she enjoyed the way the cool evening breeze felt on her new left arm. After a long pause, the voice spoke up again. So, how about it? You and me, we can have a good old time together. Look, I'll even take care of the bloody part if you don't want. Fuck off, asshole, muttered Kane. I'll handle the killing. Look at you go, Sunshine. You're gonna have so much fun. So listen, my name is Tyron, and if you ever need me, I'll just be hanging out in this piece of meat you call a heart. Now get to it. The more you kill, the more your heart turns rotten and sour, and I like rotten and sour. Kane found herself nodding to the voice. Yeah, she said. Yeah, I think this can work. I'm gonna find that shade and I'm gonna strangle it with all its own guts. And when I'm done, I'm gonna do the same to you, Tyrant. Count on it. Laugh, Tyrant. I have shit bigger than you, so good luck with that. Oh, and hey, one more thing. Right now, you and me are sharing this body, but if you ever run out of hate, if you ever, go soft, then I'm gonna take over I'm gonna take over everything. Why does the shade tell her to, like, I don't know. So keep on killing, Sunshine, and watch your back. The voice grew fainter and gradually faded away, fading to somewhere deep inside Kaine's herself. Kaine waited until she was sure the voice was gone and then waved her new left arm around a few times. It feels perfectly normal, she thought. It feels like mine. Desperately, she began poking and prodding at her new limbs, determined to find something wrong with it. She didn't want it to feel normal. That would mean the creature inside her had already won. I am not a shade. I am Kaine. Repeating this mantra in her mind, she slowly began digging through the rubble of her house, began carefully to ignore a certain red-stained spot in the corner. Finally, after what seems like an eternity of heartbreaking work, she found what she was looking for. It was the reef of lunar tears. I'm gonna mute my phone from now. Do this. Though it has been through hell and back, the garland's petal were as bright as ever. Kaine started to place it in her hair, then slowly lowered the wreath and stared at it. I'm sorry, Grandma. I'm so sorry. I don't deserve to wear this anymore. I'm possessed, corrupted, a freak. And this time I don't think there's any going back. Pulling the flower on her head, Kaine fell to the ground and sobbed. As night gradually lightened to dawn, and the people of the area arose from their daily lives, she remained in that position, as if tears could somehow wash away the horror that now infected her world.
Yona
探してるが、魔王の足取り自体なかなかつかめぬ。
これ。それは月の涙。おばあちゃんのに負けないやつをって頑張って作ったんだけど。そうか。ありがとう。長く石化されていたカイネの目覚め、エミールの見せた優しさ、再び出会う喜びを俺たちは噛みしめていた。デボルさんたちからその話を聞くまでは。 なぜなんだ、どうしてなんだ。
分かってちょうだい。揉め事が起きて危害が及ぶのはあなたたち自身なのよ。
でも
大丈夫ですよ。僕らなら外で寝ますから。
待てよ、おかしいだろ。己の身を犠牲にして村を救ったカイネとエミールがなんで村から追い出されなきゃならない。
だって僕らこんなんだし、みんな怖がりますよね。あなたにそう思ってもらえるだけでもう十分ですね、カイネさん。
私は外の方が慣れてる。
そんな。
じゃあ外で待ってますね。
すまないな。
So yeah, I don't know if there's actually gonna be more. Actually, wait. Oh.
どうした？
俺ちっとも気づかなかった。ちっとも気づいてやれなかった。くそ。
今日はもう休め。
All right. Oh my God! Why can't I move? I want to explain what's happening.
その夜は眠ることができなかった。デボルさんを初めて憎く思った。ポポルさんを冷たい人だと疑った。だがそんな俺の感情には意味がない。彼女たちは村を第一に考えた結果、ああいうしかなかっただけだ。村人たちを魔物の恐怖から守ろうとして言ったことだ。デボルさんとポポルさんの罪を責めるなんてできない。カイネたちの立場を知ろうともしなかった。俺も同罪なんだから。カイネとエミールに謝ろう。謝って、いや謝ったって。
カイネさん、被害
この声は。
あ
カイネさんとまたお話ができて、僕
あ、そうか。
カイネさんを助けるために僕頑張ったんですよ。一生懸命磨いてみたり、お湯をかけてみたり。
お湯をかけたのか。
はい、でも全然ダメで。
石化を解いてくれてありがとう、エミール。
ちょっとだけ姿が変わっちゃいましたけど。
辛い思いをさせてしまったな。
でもこの姿も悪いことばかりじゃありません。こうしてカイネさんを見ながらお話できるようになりましたし。そうだ、カイネさんのこと聞かせてくれませんか？
私の話はつまらないぞ。
カイネさんのこともっと知りたいんです。
分かった。私に魔物がつく前、子供の頃の話だ。私は少し変わった体をしているせいで村では厄介者として扱われていた。でもただ一人、おばあちゃんだけが私を受け入れてくれたんだ。どんなに辛いことがあってもおばあちゃんがいてくれるだけで。
カイネさんにとって本当に大切な人なんですね。
ああ、
そうだ、カイネさんの石化も治ったんですから。魔物つきのことや僕の体を治す方法も見つけましょう。みんなで探せばきっと簡単ですよ。僕たちならきっとできると思います。
お湯をかけるよりは難しいと思うがな。
もうそのことは忘れてください。